Yes, good evening. I hope I'm audible and that there is no echo. Can you give me a thumbs up? I'm just checking if the recording is going well. Yeah? Is the audio clarity there? I hope the audio is clear. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sharp it. All right. Okay then. Let's wait for another maybe 30 seconds or so. Some of you are joining in. Let's let them in and then get going. Today's part we are expecting it to be more simpler, quicker, and we might as well dwell into the third part of this particular unit. We are planning to cover at least one unit in a week. It is planned to be for 32 hours, which is very well within 2 months. All right, let me ask you again if I am audible, if there is voice clarity, if you are able to clearly hear me. Give me a thumbs up for one last time and then we can get going. I hope there has been no disturbance all this while. Okay. All right. I believe I'm audible, no? I'm audible, no? Okay. Okay. So let's get going then. Today we are discussing the second part. Now, some of you might be having few questions pertaining to the first part that we covered yesterday, wherein we were discussing definition, history, and evolution of remote sensing. Right. So some of you could be having few questions pertaining to the first part. If that is so, feel free to drop your query in the chat box. What we are also going to do is, after completing this particular part, that is second part of the first unit, which is fundamentals of remote sensing, we will also take up a small interaction session wherein if you have any queries specific to the content that is covered or anything otherwise, you may definitely ask me about it, right? So let's get going. Be comfortable. We are in the second part of fundamentals of remote sensing, wherein we are going to discuss the basic components of remote sensing. Here we discuss energy source, atmosphere, target, that is the planetary objects. It could be mountains, it could be barren land, it could be anything that is making up this barren land, different types of rocks, different types of structures. It could be water bodies or any other planetary features, either with respect to Earth or any other celestial body, right? So that is our target. And then we are also discussing sensor. To some extent, we have already discussed these sensors. Let's talk about a little more detail about the sensors yet again today. Okay. Okay. So the first component of remote sensing is energy source. Now, as we discussed yesterday, that it is often the naturally available source, which is sun. Solar energy is the most primary source which is utilized in remote sensing. Besides that, we also have artificial sources, or what we call active sensors are there, like that of radar and lidar. Microwaves are also there, wherein the satellite will already have its own emitter. That means source of energy will be already imbibed into the sensor and into the satellite, from where the energy will be emitted and sent towards the target, from where it will either reflect back, or it will get partially absorbed and the rest of it will get radiated back. and hence it will reach back towards a sensor, where a sensor is going to note it down and understand the difference between what it had sent and what it has now received. So all this comes under that of active sensors, or artificial sources of emission that we talk about. But today we are going to pay a little more attention towards the natural source, you see, because most of the time whenever you are getting introduced to remote sensing, often you start with these passive sensors, essentially where solar energy is used as primary source for sensing any information from any given object from the planet's surface. So here we are going to talk about solar energy, which is most common. Often active sensor data is also more is more commercialized, in the sense that you won't have any freely available data sets available. But when it comes to passive sources, that is wherein the source has been solar energy, that is where you will find most of the data that is available for free of cost. Any Lancet data you pick, or any Sentinel data you pick, these are freely available. In case of ISRO, you will see LIS data are freely available, LIS 4, LIS 3, these are freely available. Then besides that, you will also see some amount of Cartosat data is also available for free. Now you will also see any data that has a resolution more than 5 meter, no, all of that is freely available. It is made freely available by ISRO. You can make an account on Bhoonidhi. Some of you who are interested in um, going about downloading certain kinds of data sets that is already there within your methodology that you are practicing, maybe for your dissertation, or for your thesis, for your project work, or any other collaboration work, you may go about making an account on NRSC Bhoonidhi portal, and from there you will be able to download ISRO data sets. What I said any data set, Indian data set that is coarser than 5 meter resolution, that means pixel size is more than 5 meter, it is freely available. Okay. I, I think it's been available ever since 2022, so it has been made freely available. Anything having a better resolution than that of 5 meter is now priced. Okay. So Bhoonidhi is the portal. BHOONIDHI, Bhoonidhi. Okay, that is the name of the portal. You can make an account on it and download your data sets. Okay, coming back to energy source, here we are talking about sun. So we are going to discuss solar energy. Whenever you look at any solar energy, whenever you look at any energy, essentially uh, energy that has that is essentially in terms of wavelength and frequency. Okay, it exhibits two kinds of nature. One is particle nature and the other is wave nature. So in particle nature, what it does is that you will see that it will always form a cloud. Whenever it is propagating through a medium, it will make a cloud. And the other thing is that it will always make a wave. It will propagate in a wave manner. Wave in the sense, it will oscillate, it will have a crest, it will have a trough, it will have a wavelength, there will be a frequency. So it has both particle as well as wave nature. Now, so here what you see is this solar energy. You can resolve it into two components. One is magnetic field, that is uh, that you see in the blue shade over here, and then there is an other component which is electric field. So magnetic field and electric field, both of them are perpendicular to one another. I hope you are able to see here. So the whenever wave or any form of energy is propagating, moving from one location to another or from its source towards the target, you will see that it will always be vibrating in two directions which are perpendicular or orthogonal to one another. at 90 degrees to one another. What are these two components? One is magnetic field, other is electric field. Both of them are perpendicular. And the third perpendicular direction is the direction of propagation. That is a direction in which, so you will see that this direction of propagation, the vibration of electric field and the vibration of magnetic field, all three of them are perpendicular to one another. Towards the other end of it you will see source, and in the direction in which these rays are propagating, that is moving in the direction of target. Okay, let me know if this is clear to you. What I said is energy can be resolved into two fields which are always vibrating parallel to one another. One field is magnetic field, other field is electric field. And the third direction of direction, orthogonal direction to these two fields, is always the direction of propagation. At one end of it lies the source, and on the other end of it lies the target. Right, give me a thumbs up if you have understood this. Okay, so this is energy for us. This is energy. What is energy? It exhibits both particle as well as wave nature. It can be resolved into magnetic and electric field. This is important for you right now. Magnetic and electric field, both of them are perpendicular, always orthogonal to one another. And in the third direction, that makes an orthogonal angle with it, is the direction of propagation. And when you resolve in this direction, you will see that it is a ray, so it is moving in one direction. It has emanated from one point, that is a source of that energy, and it is moving in another direction, that is a target that it has to hit. Okay, so here what you see is an image, and I wish to ask you this question with two options definitely. So which particular energy do you feel must have been used to capture this particular image, whether it is radar or it is infrared? Right, you have to tell me whether this particular image is captured using infrared radiation or is it captured using radar rays. Now you can drop your answer even in the um, message box. You can either say radar or you can say infrared. This is for you to recollect what was done yesterday. If you answer this very well, you are set to understand the rest of this. Yesterday we were discussing two types of photography. One was radar photography and the other was infrared photography. So I showed you these two images just to help you recollect. I showed you these two images. This was one, this was another. Okay, then let me change it so that mm, you try recollecting. Do we have any answers yet? Okay, no. Anybody? If you want to unmute yourself, do go ahead, unmute yourself and tell me whether this particular picture is taken using radar or is it taken using infrared. Radar. Okay, radar, you said no. Eartham. Yes, 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 correct. So radar is the answer. Radar photography is going to help us in understanding the terrain. So here you see planar regions, that is a water body, and over the land as well you see some planar regions, and then you see some undulations as well. Okay, these undulations are essentially vegetation. So you are able to see a change in elevation, which is the ruggedness of the terrain, and hence this is radar photography. Okay, not infrared photography. So when we talk about the solar energy, it is of different types. Okay, it is of different types, not just of one type, that is these seven rainbow colors that we see. It is not just that. It is not just white light that can be resolved into seven different colors, Vibgyor colors. No. So solar energy carries visible range, that is something there's a small part of that huge electromagnetic spectrum or huge solar radiation that only humans can see, that humans can see, humans and other animals as well can see. Okay, so we are not able to see much part of the rest of that solar radiation. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it exists. It comes towards the planet, it interacts with the planetary features differently, not in the same manner, and then it goes back to the sensor. And humans, as we said, that humans have devised these sensors that are capable of performing or outperforming human capabilities. Okay, for example, humans cannot see infrared, they can only sense it, but humans have developed sensors that can see infrared. Similar is the case even with the other radiation as well, like microwave, radar, and infrared, and things like that. X-rays also. However, we don't employ them in remote sensing. We will understand that a little later. So there are different wavelengths. Okay, there are different wavelengths: visible, infrared, microwave, radar, also that we know, and they interact differently with different objects. Okay, and when I say differently with different objects within a specific kind of object, like for example vegetation, there could be varieties within that. So with those varieties also it is interacting differently. This is what it means. Now, coming to the second component of remote sensing, which is atmosphere. Anytime a sensor has to sense the radiation, whether it has its own source or it is relying on natural source, that is sun, it that radiation has to always pass through the atmosphere twice. Once when it has been radiated towards the planet's surface, it has to pass through the atmosphere, and then after reflecting, after emitting, getting emitted from that object after its interaction, partially it might also be absorbed, partially it might also be scattered, it has to again travel through the atmosphere towards the sensor. You understood this? What I said, that energy has to always pass through the atmosphere twice. Once when it is radiated towards the object, and the second time when it has been reflected or emitted from the object, it has to go back towards the sensor. So it has to travel through the atmosphere twice. Have you understood this? Give me a thumbs up and show me that you are present. Okay, so energy has to pass through the atmosphere twice. Okay, very simple. Now, in this atmosphere, no, this atmosphere doesn't treat every radiation in a similar manner. For example, visible spectrum, infrared, then we have radar, we have microwaves. This atmosphere, no, is not going to behave in the similar manner. They are not. It is not going to react in the similar manner to every wavelength. Each wavelength it will react with differently. Okay, to some it will completely absorb them. For example, we know ozone, no, O3 molecules that are present in the stratosphere. What do? The moment there comes, sorry, the one present in the troposphere. So here what happens in the stratosphere also, sorry, in the stratosphere, not in the troposphere. In the troposphere we have ozone, which is bad ozone. So in the stratosphere, when ultraviolet rays come and interact with this ozone layer, that is O3 molecule, what O3 molecule does, it absorbs it completely without letting any more ultraviolet rays pass through it. Okay, and enter the troposphere where humans are sustaining. And that is how we are safe from ultraviolet radiation that could have otherwise mutated our DNA. We could have suffered with a lot many skin diseases and things like that. Now, similarly, there are other gases as well that are present within this atmosphere that is going to treat different radiations differently. For example, if there is a lot of water vapor in the atmosphere, no, then this infrared radiation that is coming down, it will be readily absorbed by this water vapor. Think of it like this: whenever you keep any whenever you keep water in hot sun, what it will do, it will keep absorbing all the heat and become warm, correct? No, which means what, in presence of heat, in presence of water, heat will be always absorbed. Until when heat will be absorbed? Until water reaches its boiling point. Only then that heat, rather be than being absorbed, it will be utilized in changing the state of the water, that is, changing it from liquid to gaseous. Okay, then there won't be any temperature rise unless and until all the water just evaporates, right? Are you following what I'm telling you? Just give me a thumbs up if you are understanding what I'm telling you. Okay, one, two, all right, three. Okay. S- Give me a thumbs up if you're understanding. Give me a thumbs down if you're not understanding. Ozone, I believe everybody has understood. Let me talk about these water vapors again. See, water, no, it will keep absorbing heat until and unless it reaches temperature of 100 degrees centigrade. Okay. Until then, it keeps absorbing all the heat. Water will keep absorbing heat until it reaches 100 degrees centigrade. After which, if you supply more heat to it, what will happen, that more heat will be utilized in converting that liquid into gaseous state. So when there is water vapor present in the atmosphere and infrared radiation comes down or it is leaving from the planet, then what you will see is that all this heat is readily absorbed by the water molecules or water vapor molecules. So this is another scenario. Besides that, you will also see that the thermal infrared, right, all the infrared will be absorbed by water. Thermal infrared, high temperature infrared, is something that will be quickly absorbed by carbon dioxide, and that is how it forms a greenhouse gas, right? What it does, any heat that leaves from the planet, no, that leaves from the planet, what happens to it, it is all absorbed by the carbon dioxide. Okay, and that is how you will the what I'm trying to put in your head is that not all different types of solar radiation, the components of radiation that we receive from sun, are treated equally or similarly by the atmosphere. Different components of atmosphere will be more active or rather become inactive at times towards a certain kind of energy which carries a certain kind of wavelength and a certain frequency. Now tell me if you have understood this. Give me a thumbs up if you have understood this. Give me a thumbs down because I'm looking for thumbs down. If you give me a thumbs down, it tells me that you are paying attention and that you are lagging behind to understand it. So which means that I must repeat it maybe in a different manner. Okay, so here comes the concept of atmospheric window. What windows are otherwise used for you to look outside. Windows are completely transparent, correct? No, they are not opaque. Windows are transparent, you get to see outside. So some radiation, no, is not at all absorbed by the atmosphere, and it is allowed to come towards the planet from the sun, and also it is allowed to freely pass without any absorption, without any scattering, without absolutely any response to it. Atmosphere doesn't even see it. It is as good as that. So atmosphere is completely transparent to this radiation. For example, the yellow component of the visible spectrum, this forms an optical window. Or why optical? Because humans can see this particular visible spectrum. So within that, optical means something that humans can see. Okay, so besides that, there are many different types of radiation humans cannot see it, but optical is something that is to do with humans. It is that part of the electromagnetic spectrum that humans are sensitive to. They can sense the changes within that spectrum only. That is a limit. So this yellow portion of the visible spectrum, it can enter the atmosphere and it can leave the atmosphere. Okay, without any, or with very little, almost 100% transparency it is. Look at this particular graph. What it says, this is the wavelength change. Okay, this is ultraviolet, then infrared, then micro and radio waves. And here what you see is the transparency, that is a degree of transparency, percentage of transparency. It is almost 100, you see that, almost 100. So yellow light is something that can come into the over to towards a planet, interact with the surface objects, and then also leave. So these windows are very important. Why? This is where there is very less atmospheric disturbance that happens to the signal, and these windows is the prime concern that can help us in sensing information from the objects that we are trying to study, like forest. You could be trying to study different rocks, you could be trying to study water resources, land resources, and whatnot, right? So this is one optical window. Then besides that, you will also see one infrared window here, a larger one we are talking about. You will see this is the highest peak. Besides that, there are two more peaks, and one more peak is a smaller peak that are also there within the infrared. Within your visible spectrum, you will see only one. Okay, and then here you see infrared. There are multiple peaks. We are talking about this peak, which is the highest peak. That means highest transparency. Okay, so this is another. So we have one window, atmospheric window, that is found within the visible light. Optical window is what we call it. Then we have another infrared window here, and then we have a radio window. So radio waves are also though such a kind of radiation, energy that can enter the planet through the atmosphere without interacting with it, and also leave it without interacting, so without any change in its mm, without any error being imbibed into it by the atmosphere. Okay, because whatever difference in radiation that happens between the incoming and the outgoing radiation after interacting with the surface feature, that is of importance to us, because that is what is going to tell us three characteristics of that object. What is that? Physical, chemical, and biological. Okay, so these three components is something that we want to get information about from any given water body. Just to tell you about this biological, for example, there's a water body. Okay, that is clear water body. There is no vegetation, aquatic vegetation, phytoplanktons, or nothing growing in it. Okay, like that of a swimming pool, very clear. Okay, and then the other is where there is biomagnification taking place. You will see a lot of algal bloom growth in it. So both of them are biologically different, isn't it? So both of them will have different signatures. Okay, understand it in this way. So physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of the object, we want to understand them, and based on which we can also understand what in what direction they are evolving and things like that. Okay, so keep a memory of these atmospheric windows. What are these atmospheric windows? These are such regions within the electromagnetic spectrum that can enter the atmosphere without any changes because of atmosphere, and then also leave it without any disturbance, without any hindrance. That is atmospheric window. We have three of those atmospheric windows: one within the optical region, sorry, within the visible spectrum, that is optical window. Then we have infrared window, and we have radio window. Have you understood this? Give me a thumbs up if you have understood this. Let me know if my pace is too fast. Okay, I feel that I am telling you something very simple, no? So you, just in case if you feel that it is pretty too fast, then let me know. I'm trying to tell you in different ways. So some of you might understand the first time itself that I tell you. Some of you might still want to wait for the second explanation. So three I'm trying. Three without you asking me also. I'm trying three different ways to tell you this. So just in case if my speed is fast, too fast for you. Speed is okay. Give me a thumbs up. Keep yourself active. Huh? Keep yourself active. Okay. All right. So uh, let me tell you another thing now. There are two types of interaction that are happening of this electromagnetic energy, or this energy, solar energy that we are talking about, with the atmosphere. What atmosphere does to it? It either absorbs it or it scatters it. Okay, so what it does, it either completely absorbs it or partially absorbs it, um, or it just lets it go, like in case of this atmospheric window, just transmits it completely transparent, or it will scatter it. What it does, it uh, the radiations falls onto a certain component of this atmosphere. It could be aerosol, it could be dust particles, it could be some gases. So once this wavelength once this energy falls onto it, on that particle, maybe aerosol, colloidal solution or something like that, then what happens, it gets dispersed, it moves in all the direction, gets scattered in all direction, gets dispersed in all direction. Okay, so these are these three things that are happening. Two I have mentioned here, the third one is transparency, completely transparent, transmits it completely. Okay, so what atmosphere does, it interacts with the electromagnetic radiation in three different ways. There are three processes that are happening. One is scattering, another is absorption of different level. Okay, scattering also of different level, completely scattered, partly scattered, then absorption as well, completely absorbed, partly absorbed, and then we also have complete transmission, that is, transparency, complete transparency. Okay, now remember this one statement that I am making. This particular diagram is also this diagram itself, but I want to tell you one more thing. Incoming solar radiation, remember this, incoming solar radiation is always low wavelength and high frequency. Okay, low wavelength and high frequency, and the outgoing radiation, once that incoming radiation is absorbed by the planetary feature and then it heats up, and then at night, it releases all that energy. So that leaving energy is always long wave energy. So what you see here, this is the wavelength, low wavelength, and it increases, keeps increasing. Okay, and as the wavelength increases, frequency decreases, wavelength decreases, frequency increases. Remember this, wavelength increases, frequency decreases, frequency increases, wavelength decreases. Okay, so most of the solar energy that is incoming through the atmosphere is short wave radiation, short wavelength radiation, and whatever that goes out after interacting with the atmosphere, after being absorbed or scattered or emitted by the planet surface or the atmosphere, it is always long wave radiation or long wavelength radiation. Remember this, will you remember this? Incoming is short wave radiation, outgoing is long wave radiation. It will be important for you to also understand the greenhouse gas effect, because long wave radiation always carries heat. Okay, and short wave radiation is lower in heat. Going to the next one, that is target. What is target for us in simpler manner? If we are not moving to moon, or we are not moving to any other celestial bodies, then surface for us is Earth's surface. Earth's surface is not homogeneous. At places there are houses, at places there are big concrete jungles, at places it is barren land, at places it is rocky, at places it is soil, at places it is sandy. At places you will see water bodies. Some of these water bodies will be completely turbid. Some of them will be highly transparent. They will be freshwater bodies or saltwater bodies. You will see different types of vegetation, coniferous, you will see deciduous forest, you will see grassland. So different types of things are there within one particular category itself. Vegetation, you can diversify them in such a huge diversity. Even in case of soils, you can diversify them into alphisols, laterosols, mollisols, different types of soils, isn't it? So there is a lot of diversity in the target. Here the target that we are talking about is the earth's surface. Okay, you can think of it similarly in terms of the other celestial bodies as well, if at all you are studying analogs um, of some other planetary body, like that of maybe Mars or things like that. And mentioning this specifically because there was a student who happened to be more interested in this. And then you're also talking about satellites, not just of the earth but of the other planetary bodies as well. Now, targets are also floating in the atmosphere. Remember this. Which are those? It is also the clouds. Okay, clouds are also floating in the atmosphere, that as well we would want to sense. Now, whenever source radiates any energy, in this case sun radiates any energy towards the target, that is towards the planet surface, some of it doesn't even reach the planet surface. Some of it directly bounces back from the clouds, because clouds are white, no, so all the visible energy, and to some extent even the infrared and uh, radio waves, microwaves also, they are all, not microwaves, sorry, not radio waves, but a little amount of infrared and almost all of the visible spectrum, it gets directly reflected back towards the outer space or towards the sensor. Okay, so mm, it has very high reflectivity, so it doesn't even reach the planet. Then let's talk about this arrow, wherein what is happening, it comes onto the vegetation which is standing a little higher than that of the ground. So once it falls onto this vegetation, it vegetation will always have canopy of different height, so some branches which are low, some branches which are tall. So what you will see, multi-level scattering you will see. On the higher branches there will be scattering, on the lower branches there will be scattering. So the surface, how it is, whether it is planar or whether it is rugged, whether it has some texture, whether it is, irregular, that also matters. If it was to be a glass, it will have a planar surface, reflection will be perfect, there won't be a lot of scattering. But if it is like that of a canopy, that is multi-level canopy, no, like a deciduous forest or something like that, then you will see multi-level scattering that is happening. mm, Radiation falls onto this irregular surface object and it gets dispersed in all the possible directions, so that is scattering. Scattering is happening. Then look at this third arrow. What is this doing? This arrow interacts with the planet's surface, where some of it partly gets absorbed and the rest of it gets reflected back. Okay, now when it gets reflected back, it might again be caught up by this cloud and then again bounce back towards the surface, and from there it will find its way towards the space. So multi-level, you can think of different different possible pathways is possible. Then what happens to this energy that is absorbed? It has to transform. So what will happen to this energy that is absorbed? It will heat up the surface, it will heat up the target, and then what it will do, once it heats up, it is going to again um, emit energy. So remember that hot pan that mother had used for roasting chapatis, and she had kept it aside. When you came close to it, you don't even have to touch it to understand that it is radiating out energy. Whatever it had absorbed, now it is releasing it out. Okay, so the same thing happens with the target as well. Target is the earth's planetary features. Okay, the planetary features that are lying on the planet. So here what is happening, absorbed energy then converts into long wave energy and it is emitted, and once it is emitted, its original character has changed. So originally it was shortwave radiation, it got absorbed, and while it was released, it was not having a lot of it was not having a high frequency, rather it was having a long wavelength. So then what happens, all that energy may travel out of the atmosphere and interact with come in contact with the sensor where it is getting sensed, or it may just escape through the into the outer space. Okay, so here we are talking about four different processes. One is reflection, scattering. We are talking about absorption and emission. Now, I would want you to tell me whether you have understood these four processes that are happening with the target. In the atmosphere, we will see reflection, absorption. Okay, reflection, absorption, and then with the target we are looking at scattering, absorption, emission, reflection. Four processes in different, you won't you cannot misplace them with that of atmosphere and with that of the target. Okay, let's wait for 5 seconds. Let's see if you have any query. Okay, no query, no query. Okay, all right then. Okay, so I will assume that you have understood the target. Okay, it is very easy, but at times we might be listening to these things for the first time, so don't feel shy to tell me that okay, this is something that I have not understood. All right, let's get going. The last is sensor. Like I told you, no, that we have already discussed the sensor. There are two types of sensors, active and passive sensor. You can never miss onto them. You can never get confused between them. Active means it does its own work. Passive means it is dependent upon somebody. Passive means it uses external source of light. Active means it has its own source of light. Okay, so let's just recollect the flow of remote sensing process. In the flow of remote sensing process, there has to be an energy source, whether it is external or um, own source of light. It's all it all depends upon the kind of sensor, but there has to be an energy source, and from this energy source the energy will transmit or pass through the atmosphere. It will interact with it as well, and then if it passes through the atmosphere, it comes to the target, where it again interacts with the target, where either scattering or reflection or absorption or emission will take place. Okay, all these four in different proportion is also possible, and then it again traverses towards the sensor through the atmosphere. Again its character is getting changed, and once the sensor senses it, it will store the signals in the form of electrical signals. Some of them will be stronger in a certain wavelength, some of them will be faint. Okay, so all this is converted into a mathematical array. That is, all this data is then processed and converted into pictorial images or array of numbers or pixel values, that is dn values, digital numbers, and then it is easy to be interpreted after performing any mathematical operations or some mathematical processing. All this when you do, then you are able to interpret this data. So what is the remote sensing process? There has to be an energy source. It will traverse through the atmosphere, interact with it, come and interact with the target, and after interacting with the target, it will then again pass through the atmosphere, be sensed by the sensor, where the sensor will um, process this data and convert it into an interpretable format. Okay, have you understood this? Okay, remember this, very straightforward. You cannot get misplaced between these two. Just have these things clear, and then you're good to go about even processing the data. All right, so that was this last uh, component of what we were supposed to discuss today. We have 15 minutes more, and let me wait for your questions. So what I will do is I will wait until 8:48. That gives me exact 5 minutes, just to see if anybody is waiting to interact and ask some questions, some doubts, or anything of that sort. Right? You may go ahead. Yes, Eartham, you have a query. Yes. Okay.
we take the first graph now, where the Earth atmosphere, and you had told about the optical window and the radio window.
Mm.
Okay. So in this, the horizontal graph measurement, if we see, it is ultraviolet, then infrared, and the micro and radio wave. Okay.
Yes.
So when we are seeing the ultraviolet, that particular, so that is what you are calling it as a window, right? That horizontal distance, or how to read this, because there is a white gap and then the blue color is there. So how to read it?
Yes. Okay. So we will think of this as a curve, and the y-axis here is the atmosphere transparency. That means within along this curve you are looking at ultraviolet until here, no, until somewhere here it is ultraviolet. Okay, right at the edge of this yellow band it is ultraviolet. So what we see is that as we move towards higher wavelength or lower frequency of ultraviolet, its transparency is increasing. So you see, this is transparency, no? This is 50%, this is 100%, this is 0%, which means all this radiation of ultraviolet that lies along this particular wavelength is completely absorbed. Nothing is sent towards the planet's surface. Whatever comes from
Okay.
the sun, everything gets absorbed. And then within this stretch, you will see ultraviolet radiation that has transparency. That means some part of the ultraviolet radiation, no, longer wavelength ultraviolet radiation, A and B especially, remember this. So A and B, ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B, is something that is transparent. Sorry, the atmosphere is transparent to it, and that is why we use these sunscreens which have which have a wide spectrum coverage of ultraviolet A and B. So we try to protect our skin from these ultraviolet radiations that the ozone layer is not absorbing. Those are sent towards the planet's surface. Right. So this curve speaks of transparency rising. So this rising limb of this curve speaks about increase in transparency. That is, it comes towards the planet's surface, and then we will see a drop. So there is complete absorption within this white valley. I hope we are able to see this. And then again the transparency increases to some extent, about maybe 60% of it, and then again a drop. Within here, for example, in infrared, we will see a big large gap where there is absolutely no transparency. That means whatever infrared comes in contact with the atmosphere, everything is absorbed. Okay, and then again in radio wave we will see complete transparency. This is all something that the atmosphere doesn't interact with it. It will let it come towards the surface, and from surface, if it is leaving into the outer space, again it won't trouble it. It will just let it pass. Okay, so I hope I could answer that. Could I be any?
Yeah, I was trying to understand the diagram actually, so that because all three of the radiation, these sense ultraviolet, infrared, and micro and radio waves, all are explained in one window, one graph only.
Yes.
So it is, yeah. So it is like a three figure diagrams actually, and how they react in atmosphere. That is what is explained, correct?
Yes. So let me show you one more diagram. Let me show you this. So what happens, no, we have different types of radiation that is coming from the sun. We have gamma rays, cosmic rays, x-rays, ultraviolet rays, then a small gap that is maximized over here, that is visible, then infrared, then microwave, then radio. So all these different types of radiations we are receiving. This is low wavelength and
Okay.
high frequency side, and this is low frequency high wavelength side. Okay, now
Okay.
while while we are looking at this particular diagram, it shows us the same wavelength. So this is low wavelength
Okay,
high
so these
frequency.
are the features of the sunlight only then. All these are the
Yes.
features of the sunlight. Okay, now I got it. Yes,
Yes.
thanks.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Anybody else who is waiting for to ask a question? I'm so sorry, I'm not able to see who has raised. their
So
hands.
the
Yeah.
graph below it, that where the energy intensity, there is some unit is mentioned there. Correct. That 1 mu, then the 10, and then 70. So
Yes.
what are these?
These are the wavelength. This is lambda. This is lambda. This is lambda wavelength. This is in terms of micrometer. This
Okay.
micrometer is um, the thousandth part of mm. Okay, so if we divide
Okay.
1 mm into 1000, yes, so that is 1 micrometer. Okay.
Micro
Micro Micrometer.
meter. Okay.
Micrometer. Okay, micrometer is thousand part of 1 mm, of an mm.
Okay. Yes. Right.
Okay. All right. Anybody else who has raised their hand? Anybody is waiting to ask any question? I think there is some query in the message box. Shreyashi is asking us, ma'am, can the reflection and refraction process be added in the electromagnetic radiation interaction with atmosphere? As you have just mentioned, only two processes. Yes, refraction is wherein we were talking about transmission. For example, we see these atmospheric windows where, for example, this one, no, it is not reaching all the way to 100% of transparency, which means some part of it gets refracted towards the down layers of the atmosphere, the lower layers of atmosphere. Some part of it gets absorbed, around some 80% of it gets absorbed, and 20% of it gets transmitted, that is refracts, goes into the lower reaches of the atmosphere. So yes, refraction is same as transmission that we were talking about in this case. Shreyashi, have you understood this? Could I answer your query? Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Now let me give you another 1 minute. I don't know if anybody else has raised their hands. I'm trying to search for if at all anybody has raised their hands. If you are typing in the message box, do go ahead, type it. If you wish to unmute yourself and talk, please do that. Raghavan is asking us, how can atmospheric scattering and absorption be quantitatively modeled to improve radiometric correction in multitemporal or remote sensing dataset? So here we will take help from radiometers, spectrometers, wherein different types of energy we can utilize at a lower elevation itself, no, if we are in close contact with the target. So what do we do? At lower elevation itself, we send the same radiation towards that particular target. So we know what we have emitted, and in at what wavelength and what frequency we have emitted, and at that level itself, that is very close to that particular target, no, not at such a huge height, maybe just a meter, with the help of a pole, mounting these radiometer spectrometers on the pole, we can sense back what is coming back. So their atmospheric errors which are imbibed into these signals is absolutely nothing, so we are getting pure signals. And then what we do is we relate this to that of the optical depth of the atmosphere, in case of whichever sensor that we are utilizing the data for. So we apply these pure signals that we have received at the target to that of the um, uh, errors that we are getting within the satellite data set, and that is how we improve our radiometric corrections, atmospheric corrections basically. Radiometric corrections are related to the sensor. Often they are done with respect to the calibration parameters that are um, provided by along with the satellite data metadata itself. Raghavan, could I answer you that question? Let me know if you have understood it. Okay. So often what we also do is that if I want to understand what is the spectral signature, pure spectral signature, that is without any disturbance from the atmospheric components, that is atmospheric disturbances or any sensor disturbances. So what I will do, I in a laboratory setup itself, I will see what is the reflection, absorption, and emission that is coming from a specific kind of rock, for example. And that will help me in correcting these signals. Usually these lunar analogs are also studied on our own planet, that is on earth, with the help of similar rocks that are present on the moon. And there we study the spectral signatures in a laboratory setup. The pure ideal spectral signatures of any given rock is understood, and then we relate it to what is present on the other planet, or on the on some satellites and things like that, natural satellites. Okay, so we are left with,
Thank you.
yes. So yeah.
Very nice section, ma'am. Yesterday also very nice, nice section. The fundamentals of origin of the remote sensing you told, and today also fundamentals and how to that scattering by happening, and how the electromagnetic reacting with the atmospheric of the earth and terrain of the earth. You explained very nicely, ma'am.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for expressing your views. I would really want, if any of us is not understanding anything, give me a thumbs down so that I get alert, no, that okay, there's something that I need to maybe try in a different manner. So this course is going to be very very easy. Like I said, it will build your foundations. We are doing our best, whatever that we can, to make your fundamentals best, so that when you go out in search of any data sets, or even for processing any data set for any kind of objective, you will feel more confident that yes, I am connected to the roots of this data, and I'll be able to, though I might not have worked with this kind of data, I will definitely able to uh, you know um, deal with it with my understanding, with whatever foundation that you build in here. Yeah.
How can we go, ma'am,
How
for
can
data analyzing and assignment like that?
the
Which type
assignment.
of data we handle for optical only or so included?
So because this particular course, this particular foundation class is only theory, there won't be any hands on sessions, but there will be a practical session that will be announced to you on 20th. There we will be dealing with optical sensors, with microwave sensors, and some of them are going to be the radar sensors, all freely available data sets only we are going to use. So these three are the priorities. We are not going to go into lidar. We will be doing some SAR data processing. So the software that we are aiming at is QGIS, along with some freely available online platforms like maybe Google Colab or Google Earth Engine. Definitely it will be introductory, but that should suffice, all for the purpose of this particular class. Okay, so we are left with 2 more minutes. If you felt that you took a little longer to frame your question, um, copy it from the chat box just in case if you won't be able to drop it, and drop it in the WhatsApp group. That is where we will try our best to answer it. Or if any of the participants themselves know the answer, they can as well answer it. Feel free to interact. Feel free to ask your questions. And every day we will be sharing a feedback link. So we would want you to spend those 30 seconds giving a feedback so that we keep ourselves on track. And those of us who are finding it difficult maybe to attend regular live classes would look into your feedback and say that yes, there's something nice that is happening in this particular class, let's just attend it, and things like this. So motivate yourself, keep yourself motivated, uh, attempt to motivate others. That's all. I should see you tomorrow where we are discussing very very important aspect of electromagnetic radiation. Today we kept listening to it, electromagnetic radiation, but we will be talking about it in more detail tomorrow.
So, will there be any workshop from your side where we can participate? Like mostly, I will be looking for in Goa to study of a village or for the water body and master plan of the village. So, any such thing will be there, like any.
We call out for internships. These are unpaid internships but research based. Every month
Okay.
we go for two interns. Basically the idea is that students at postgraduate and undergraduate level would want to collaborate with us and learn few skills in remote sensing and GIS. But here we are not really putting forward a study area specific to Goa. There were certain internships that went on with certain rural areas of Goa, but not specifically. We keep it open. And we would like if anybody wishes to collaborate, if they have some idea within themselves. But
Okay,
besides,
I'll talk to you personally and we will see to it.
yes, sure,
Thank you.
yes, yeah, yes. Okay, then it's about time. Have a great evening. Let me see you coming Thursday. I'll see you on Thursday. Tomorrow we are taking an off. See you all. Good night.